Oh, welcome to the Spring 2016 Scientists in the Classroom webinar. We're really excited to have you all here, whether you're watching live or you are watching the recording of this later on. And let's get started. So here's just a little bit about what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to introduce you all to NCSC, the work we do an overview of the program, talk about some keys to success for both scientists and teachers for the program, give you some tips on dealing with challenges to science when you're in the classroom, talk about some success stories from our pilot and some examples of what you can do with the program, and then throughout the presentation, we'll have question and answer periods. All right, so who are we at the National Center for Science Education? Well, a little bit of background. We got started 30 years ago, around 30 years ago, in the early 80s, and we worked to defend the teaching of evolution. About 5 years ago, we added climate change to our mission statement. And it's really our goal to support educators in teaching the science around socially and politically contentious but scientifically sound topics. And when we asked educators and teachers what they wanted from us and how we could help them, they told us that we wanted that they wanted scientists in the classroom. So that's why we created this program. And who are we? I'm Kate Heffernan. I'm the Scientist in the Classroom intern, so I'll basically be the person you'll probably be contacted by most, and you can contact me at any time as well with any questions you may have with the program. My immediate higher up is Minda Berbecco, and she's here with me today as well.
Hi, I'll just introduce myself really quickly because I think Kate's doing a really good job. My name's Minda Berbecco. I have a PhD in biology from Tufts University, and I came over to NCSC to work with them on their climate change program and also on their educator outreach. And one of the things we did was we launched a program called NCSC Teach, and Scientists in the Classroom is part of that. Probably all the teachers on this webinar should be familiar with it, but if you're not, you can go over to ncscteach.com to find out more about it. And when we went to our teachers and asked, what are you looking for? What do you need? This was one of the major programs the Scientists in the Classroom on. So we piloted it in the fall, and this is the large-scale program that's coming out this spring. So Kate can tell you more about that.
All right, so now we're going to go to our program overview. So there are 5 major components to the Scientists in the Classroom program. We have our initial matchmaking, which has already started when you all got your emails with the either your scientist or your teacher's information. That was our first time connecting the both of you. And then with the program, you're going to plan 2 in-class visits. One will be an introductory visit and the other an interactive visit with the scientists in the class. And I will be going over these visits in more detail later on. And then we also are going to offer you some optional additions to the program outside of the 2 in-class visits. And this will be up to the scientist and teacher matches to decide what you're going to do with the program. And the final component, a little bit of the nitty-gritty, is the surveys that we'll be sending you throughout the semester and throughout the program to make sure everything is going well and to make sure that we're serving you the best we can. And now, first step is the initial match meeting. So within about 2 weeks of being matched, so around this time, you should get in contact with your counterpart, either a scientist or a teacher, and take the time to either have a 20 to 30-minute phone call or meet in person. And when you have this meeting, you should just introduce yourselves, find out how each person became a scientist or a teacher, talk about your interests, how either what you teach or what you study is related to evolution or climate change. Teachers, you should also talk about your class. What are your students like? What are they interested in? What information will they have when the scientist visits? And this will help the in-class visits run very smoothly. Also, talk about the timing. What time works best for both the scientists and the teachers, as well as aligning the scientist visits with your curriculum. And then also another great thing to talk about is what you both help to gain from participating in the program. And when you talk about this early on, you can plan your in-class visits so that you both gain what you expect. or what you want to. And finally, and this is a little bit more of a technicality, you should talk about your school guest requirements, and we'll go over that a little bit more in the next slide. So teachers, it's really important that you talk to your scientists about what sort of requirements or safety requirements and procedures your school has for allowing guests to come work with your class. We only vet the scientists for their scientific expertise. We have no way of knowing all the different safety requirements that your school may have. So it's your responsibility to talk to the scientists and make sure they know what they need to do before they're allowed to visit the class. And it's important that you get this done as soon as possible so that the rest of the semester can run very smoothly. And if there's any way that we can help with any of the technicalities, please let us know. We're here to work with you and make sure this program runs smoothly. And now the fun part, the in-class visits. So you're going to have 2 in-class visits required with the program. The first scientist visit is just going to be an introduction. This is a chance for the students and the scientists to get to know each other, and it's a bit more of an informal visit. So the scientists are going to talk about their research, how they got interested in science, what they study, what their day-to-day life is like as a scientist. And with this, we really hope to create a dialogue between the scientists and students about scientific careers and just basically the scientist story. And now the second in-class visit is going to be focused around an interactive activity or experiment. So the scientist is going to visit the class you're going to plan ahead of time what will be covered when the scientist visits the class, what activity will be completed with the students, and how long the scientist needs to be in the class. So you should have this discussion with your counterpart before the second in-class visit. And when you're determining what activity or experiment you want the scientist to do with the class, it's important also with this program that you relate it back to climate change and evolution. And if you're having any difficulty coming up with ideas for what the second visit should look like, we have a lot of resources on our website, and I'm going to be sending out this PowerPoint, so you'll have the link to it. And the 2 in-class visits are the bare bones of the program. So we really want this program to be something that you make your own. So in the past, we've had matches Skype with the class. We've had them scientists and classrooms interact via social media and Twitter and have Q&A sessions on that interface. Other pairs have had additional in-class visits. So the scientist has in some cases visited on a monthly or bi-weekly basis and had the opportunity to interact with the class more. Scientists in their classrooms have gone on field trips together, and we even had one match. The teacher brought the students to the scientist lab to visit and see what her day-to-day life is like and get a really interactive experience. So these are not required, but we encourage you to work with your counterpart, so either with your scientist or your teacher, to enrich the program beyond the 2 in-person visits. And surveys, these are a really important part of our program. You should expect to get a survey on a monthly basis from us about how things are going, what we can do to better serve you. We are always looking to improve the program, so we need to know what's going on in order to make those improvements. And then we also need to keep the program funded. Unfortunately, that's a reality. And the data we collect from the surveys helps us quantify the impact of the program, and that really appeals to funders so we can continue it into the future. And does anyone have any questions?
So I think that for some people who have a Google account, there's going to be a group chat option, so they can enter that questions for there. And if not, if you're unable to do so, you're welcome to email us later on. So that's not a problem. We did have question that came in. Thanks, Kate. I don't know that was the question.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
There we go. Okay. So one of the questions that we got was whether or not the scientists can come in and talk to the students about something outside of climate change or evolution. And certainly, all of you scientists who are on this webinar are going to have expertise in lots of different areas. There's a lot of different programs that bring scientists into classrooms, and one thing that makes ours unique is really the emphasis on these two areas, these two topics, and these are the topics that we've been told repeatedly teachers really want support on. So certainly bringing in your research and talking about how it addresses these topics would be really, really useful. If you want to come additional sessions and talk about other ideas in science, that's great. But if you can really use this program in particular to talk about climate change or evolution as the teacher sees fit, we would very much appreciate that.
Yeah. All right. Now we have some sort of tips for success with the program. And first, we're going to talk about our keys to success for the teachers. Don't forget, when scientists come into your classroom, you are still the expert on your students, and you're the most knowledgeable person about what will and won't work in your class. So it's really important that when the scientists come in, you remain present throughout the presentation. It's also important that you communicate with your scientists regularly, and that you have everything prepared and planned for the classroom visit, so it runs very smoothly. And that you work together with your scientists and collaborate to find activities that will fit into not only the scientist's expertise, but your lesson plans for the semester. And it's also important that you help the scientists understand what to expect when they come into your classroom, and give them some tips on how to deal with challenges and answer questions in the class. So that's pretty much it for teachers. All right. And now scientists. And this is very important that you, again, same as with the teachers, you devote the time to communicate consistently with the class and teacher that you are matched with. Part of this communication will be talking about with the teacher the age group, the grade level, and the academic standing of the students, so that when you do come into the classroom, your presentation is something that the students will understand and will be interested in. Again, you can check out our resources tab for ideas on activities and lessons to do with your matched class. And then once you're in the classroom, make sure that you cover only one topic in a class period. When you're talking to the students, don't use jargon, so they'll definitely understand everything you're talking about. Remember, these are mostly middle and high school students. And also be interactive and keep your energy up. The students are going to be really responsive to your presence in the classroom, and if you're energetic and you keep them engaged, then it's going to be a great experience for everyone. And additional keys to success, speaking of keeping the students engaged, a great tip is to ask the students questions. This will tell you what they know and whether they're following what you're talking about. And it'll keep them really engaged throughout your presentation. And it'll keep them paying attention as well. And be respectful to the teachers and students. Don't forget that you're coming into the teacher's classroom. They're going to be the expert. You're a guest in their classroom. And for the students, there's no such thing as a stupid question. So even if a question may seem a bit elementary to you, the students are really genuinely curious and they want it answered. And don't worry about disciplining the students. This isn't your responsibility. Again, it's the teacher's classroom. They're going to be responsible for classroom management. And if you find you need help or you're having behavioral problems with the students, go ahead and talk to your teacher and ask them for help. They're there to help. They know how to deal with their class, and they will be there to assist you. All right.
So this is Minda again. I'll talk a little bit more about dealing with challenges in the classroom. The reality is we are asking you to address socially and politically contentious topics that are scientifically sound, evolution and climate change. In our pilot, we had no issues whatsoever. Students were very respectful, teachers were great, the scientists were wonderful. It was a really great experience. We do understand that challenges do arise though. We're here to support you. You can always contact Kate or myself, and we're always happy to work through situations. We think it's important to remember, not to feel threatened or frustrated by challenging questions. Don't feel like you have to answer something you're not comfortable answering. You can always say, I'm going to get back to you after class, or let's chat with us after class. A student may walk out or try to divert the conversation or lesson, and it's important to remember that this is the teacher's responsibility to handle. Challenges arise in classrooms all over the nation all the time, and teachers handle it very well. So as a scientist, it's okay if these challenges do arise. For evolution, the biggest challenges that we see teachers run into, and as a scientist you might run into too, is concerns that come from sort of a religious orientation. Students may genuinely be concerned about the religious implications for learning about evolution. Something that we found that teachers recommend to us is focusing on the wealth of evidence. So it's not just about Darwin. There's a whole lot of evidence and research and scientists working on evolution. And also remembering that you're not trained as a religious authority, and that's not why you're being brought into the classroom. And it's okay to say, I can bring you the science, I can talk about the science, but these are really questions that you need to talk to your religious authority, your priest, your rabbi, whoever, about these issues that you're concerned about. And that's totally okay to say too. For climate change, the challenges tend to come more from a political stance. Students, again, may genuinely be concerned that learning about climate change instead of having religious implications is political indoctrination. So there's certainly some students who feel that way. And remember that your job isn't to debate the science, and it's not to debate the politics. So really don't let this divert class time. And again, a tactic is, hey, let's chat with this after class. I'm happy to talk to you more about it, but we need to focus on what I came to class to do. Another way of dealing with it is to pull the science from the politics. So this is what the science shows, but there are a lot of policy options, and that's true. And then in addition to that, again, focusing on the wealth of evidence. So with climate change, it's not just one computer model. There's a lot of evidence, and there's an opportunity there if questions come up to really talk about all of that evidence too. So pilot successes.
Yeah, so now that we freaked you all out, no, just kidding. We really didn't run into many of these challenges during the pilot at all. And everyone who participated had a really positive experience. You can see these are just some pictures of scientists in classrooms across the country, and just some examples of the way that scientists and teacher matches made the program their own. We had many matches who did biweekly in-class visits, and this really helped create a strong relationship between the scientists and the students. So depending on the scientist's schedule and the teacher's schedule, you can arrange for these visits. And we had students come and visit, or go and visit, the lab of the scientists they were matched with, and they really got a very hands-on view of what it's like to be a scientist today. Almost all of our matches had really productive and great question and answer sessions between the scientists and the students for the scientists to talk about their story and their background and what their experience has been as a scientist, pardon me. And we even had a match take field trips together. So they went to a pond to do an experiment there, and they went on a whale watching trip together. Really, the scientists and teachers, and you'll find this throughout the program, have worked together and really made the program their own outside of the 2 in-class visits. And a lot of our partnerships were so successful that they're continuing to work together into the spring. So depending on how things go, based on the schedule of both the scientist and the teacher, in your match, the program can really grow from the 2 in-class visits. And that is it. If anyone has any questions, you can either put your microphone on or type it in the group chat. And I'm going to actually put up my email address.
I have to go to the other
Oh,
tab.
apologies. That's true.
So one question, Kate, that we've gotten before is this program is fairly loose, and that's something that teachers and scientists have both noted, because typically these kinds of programs are very specific. What did you is it worth talking about what we learned from the pilot in terms of why this program is so loose?
Yeah, so we found during the pilot, we had a much stricter program in place, and our scientists and teacher pairs really just went rogue in a great way. They expanded it far beyond what we had in place. So we wanted to make the program loose so that the scientists and teachers can work together and really collaborate to benefit the students. And we didn't want to put too many constraints on the program. So it allows for that flexibility for the matches to do what they want with it.
I think it's important to highlight, there's a couple of really important aspects of the program that are worth highlighting that sort of came out of that. First of all, this is really meant to be a collaboration between scientists and teachers. And then also understanding that schools are different and teachers approach teaching differently, and trying to make sure that scientists are coming in and understanding that one classroom experience might actually be really different at one school than another one, and hopefully all of them are going to be really positive and really wonderful. And so by building in a little flexibility, we allow for that kind of really wonderful relationship to develop. Mm-hmm. So Kate, do you have any other last comments or anything like that?
That's about it. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. My email's up there, heffernan@ncsc.com, and you should be receiving emails from me on a pretty regular basis. And I can answer your questions directly. Feel free to call the office at any time. And last but not least, get in contact with your scientist or your teacher, your counterpart, and we're going to get this rolling.
Yay! Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Bye.